Picture this. Somewhere deep inside Kensington Palace, behind doors that no camera has ever entered, a legal document is being prepared. It carries no dramatic seal, no golden ribbon. It is a few pages of dry constitutional language. And yet, when it is signed, it will do something that has not been done in nearly a century. It will erase 2 royal children from the line of privilege forever. Prince William, the man who will one day be king, is about to strip his own niece and nephew, Archie and Lilibet Mountbatten-Windsor, of their titles of prince and princess. Not as a threat, not as a bargaining chip, but as a final, irreversible act of separation from a brother he no longer recognizes, and a sister-in-law he no longer trusts. And here is the part that should send a chill down your spine. According to those closest to the future king, this decision was not made in anger. It was made in silence, over months, with the cold clarity of a man who has simply stopped hoping. Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away in Montecito, California, Prince Harry has learned what is coming, and his reaction tells you everything you need to know about where this story is heading. He is not negotiating. He is not pleading. He is attacking. A furious media counter-offensive is already underway. But this time, the palace is not flinching. This time, there will be no retreat. So how did we get?
A legal document is being prepared right now. No cameras, no press releases, no dramatic announcement. Just a few cold pages of constitutional language that will permanently erase Harry's children from royal life forever. And William did not do this in rage. He did not do it impulsively. He did it in silence, over weeks, with the kind of clarity that only comes when a man has completely stopped hoping. That detail right there should tell you everything, because we all knew this was not just about titles. This was never just about titles.
Not be crossed. For William, this represents the final firewall. It is not merely retribution against a rebellious sibling. Constitutional advisors describe it as an institutional necessity to protect the organization he will one day lead. Years of public accusations, monetization of private matters, and profound disloyalty have crystallized into steely resolve. Insiders describe a future sovereign who has moved beyond diplomacy into enforcement. The window for peace has closed. What has begun is an era of accountability. To grasp the gravity of this, you must understand the legal framework behind royal identity. The titles of prince and princess are governed by the Letters Patent of 1917. Issued by King George V during the First World War. When anti-German feeling was so intense, the royal house changed its name from Saxe-Coburg and Gotha to Windsor. The decree restricted the styles of His or Her Royal Highness to the monarch's children, grandchildren in the male line, and the eldest son of the eldest son of the Prince of Wales. Because Archie and Lilibet were great-grandchildren of Queen Elizabeth II at birth, they had no automatic entitlement. That right only activated when Charles became king. Harry and Meghan moved quickly to register their children under the princely titles.
Let me tell you what this is really about, and I promise you, by the time we get to the end of this, everything you suspected is going to make complete sense. You know, just like I do, that when a man of William's discipline and restraint makes a move this final and this irreversible, it is because he has been watching something build for a very long time. Years. And what he has been watching is not a brother finding his way. It is a pattern, a calculated, deliberate, documented pattern of betrayal that reaches all the way into the lives of vulnerable children in Africa. Yes, Africa. Stay with me. Let us start with the charity, because this is where the files get dark. Harry had built something that even his harshest critics respected. Sentebale, a charity supporting children in Africa living with HIV and AIDS. He built it in honor of Diana's legacy. That was real. Nobody disputed that. For years, it was the one thing about Harry that silenced the room. And then Tom Bower's investigative book, Betrayal, dropped the kind of revelation that the elite never wants sitting in the open where ordinary people can read it. The charity's own leadership discovered a troubling pattern. A prospective donor, someone prepared to give real money to sick African children, was reportedly contacted by a representative connected to Harry's own Archville operation and encouraged to redirect that donation, not toward the children, away from them, toward the Sussex Foundation. A second donor was reportedly steered toward Harry's commercial tourism venture. We are talking about diverting funding from children with HIV to finance a California lifestyle. That is not a misunderstanding. That is not a miscommunication. You know what that is, and so does William.
Harry has reportedly been devastated. He has turned to remaining media allies, principally Harper's Bazaar, to frame the move as a cruel attack on innocent children. Palace officials anticipated this precisely. It is a recognizable Sussex strategy. Cast the institution as vindictive, generate sympathy, trigger outrage. One commentator noted, "You can practically feel the rehearsed indignation in every leaked quote." But the palace is not retreating. Their private position is blunt. You chose to leave. You denounced this life as a gilded cage. You wrote that your happiest days were as Captain Wales in the army. You cannot...
When the charity's leadership tried to do the right thing, proper audits, proper questions about why certain associates were holding six-figure positions with generous perks, Harry's team reportedly responded with hostility. They painted the leadership as the enemy. Harry himself reportedly reacted with bewildered indignation, like a man who genuinely could not understand why anyone would challenge him. Think about that. That is not innocence. That is entitlement so deep it has become invisible to the person carrying it. And for William, a man who has built his public life around accountability and genuine service through initiatives like the Earthshot Prize, this was not one grievance among many. This was Exhibit A, the thing that confirmed what he had been watching for years.
Revelations that explain the Prince of Wales's uncompromising stance. The most damaging allegation involves Sentebale, Harry's African charity supporting children with HIV and AIDS. For years, it was the crown jewel of his legacy, born from a genuine love for Africa and a desire to continue Diana's humanitarian tradition. Even his fiercest critics respected it. But Bower's book claims that the charity's leadership discovered a troubling pattern. A prospective American donor was reportedly contacted by an Archwell representative and encouraged to redirect their gift away from Sentebale toward the Sussex's own foundation. A second donor was allegedly steered toward Travelist, Harry's sustainable tourism venture. The implication is staggering. Harry was effectively diverting funding from vulnerable African children to finance his California lifestyle. When the charity's leadership attempted proper financial audits and questioned why certain associates held six-figure positions with generous perks, Harry's camp responded with hostility, painting the chair as an enemy. Bower suggests the leadership was simply fulfilling its fiduciary duty. Harry reportedly reacted,
But here is the question nobody in the mainstream press will ask out loud. If the charity's own leadership saw this pattern clearly enough to raise formal concerns, why did it take an investigative book to bring it to the surface? Who was protecting this information? And what else are they still protecting right now? Because the charity betrayal does not stand alone. That is the part they don't want you to know. It belongs to a pattern that William and Catherine have watched build in real time, and it has reached their children. There is footage from Trooping the Color. Princess Charlotte stumbled on the balcony, a small child. Every person nearby reacted with instinctive concern. But the footage shows Harry and Meghan in what witnesses and the Wales family themselves reportedly interpreted as laughter. Defenders called it an innocent moment. You can decide what you believe, but then consider what happened at Queen Elizabeth's funeral. Multiple photographs from multiple angles at a moment of global grief appear to show Meghan directing a look of unmistakable hostility directly at Princess Charlotte. One observer called it barely concealed resentment aimed at a child, not at an institution, not at a policy, at a child. William and Catherine, who are fiercely protective parents, and we all know that about them, reportedly view these two moments as the true point of no return, the place where diplomacy became impossible. Because you can argue about money and press strategy and palace politics all day long, but when the hostility reaches your children, something in a parent shifts permanently.
Two specific episodes involving Meghan and Princess Charlotte have become legendary within palace circles. The first occurred on the Buckingham Palace balcony during Trooping the Colour. In widely circulated footage, a young Princess Charlotte stumbled and nearly fell. Everyone nearby reacted with instinctive concern, except, the footage suggests, Harry and Meghan, who appeared to be laughing. Defenders called it an innocent moment. Critics, and reportedly the Wales family, saw something else entirely. A flash of what one observer called casual cruelty and a startling absence of empathy toward a small child. The second incident was captured during Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. At a moment of global mourning, multiple photographs from different angles appear to show Meghan directing a look of unmistakable hostility toward Princess Charlotte. One commentator described it as barely concealed resentment aimed at a child. The sheer number of images from different moments led many to conclude it was not a trick of the camera. For the Wales family, this was deeply personal. The hostility was reaching their children. William and Catherine, known as fiercely protective parents.
And now, consider what Meghan has built her entire public identity around. Victimhood. The narrative that she was cast out, abandoned, betrayed. She has spoken publicly about her estrangement from her father, Thomas Markle, claiming her heart was broken when he worked with photographers on staged images before the wedding. But here is what the files show. The photographer involved had a prior professional relationship with Meghan going back to her Suits days. That same agency later produced supposedly candid images of Harry and Meghan walking their dogs in Los Angeles during the pandemic, wearing caps and sunglasses, completely unrecognizable, and somehow a photographer found them. We all know what that means. The victim narrative does not just collapse under this information, it inverts.
Meghan has presented herself as the victim, claiming her heart was broken when Thomas collaborated with photographers on staged images before the wedding. But the photographer involved, Jeff Rayner of the Coleman Rayner Agency, had a prior professional relationship with Meghan from her Suits days. The same agency later produced supposedly candid shots of the couple walking dogs in LA during the pandemic, wearing caps and sunglasses that made them unrecognizable, raising the obvious question of how a photographer identified them at all. The widely held conclusion, these were staged. If Meghan maintained a working relationship with the photographer she publicly blamed for destroying her family, the victim narrative collapses. A darker interpretation emerges, that she orchestrated the original setup to justify cutting her father out permanently. For a royal family built on the principle of family loyalty, this level of personal manipulation is simply...
If she maintained a working relationship with the photographer she publicly blamed for destroying her family, then the original betrayal story was not a wound, it was a tool, used to justify cutting off her own father permanently. For a royal family built on the principle that loyalty to family is non-negotiable and sacred, this level of personal manipulation is, in the words of those close to William, simply incomprehensible. So here is what William is actually doing right now. He is not acting out of anger. He already told you that through the people close to him. He made this decision in silence, with cold clarity after a month of deliberation. He is building the institution he will one day lead, and he is doing it on one foundational principle. There is no middle ground.
Transformed. The cautious heir is being replaced by the image of a decisive, formidable leader. The title revocation will likely be remembered as the most consequential act of his years as Prince of Wales, the moment that defined his approach to kingship. Queen Elizabeth, with her devotion to never complain, never explain, and her personal fondness for Harry, would almost certainly have resisted this step. King Charles, who champions a slimmed-down monarchy but yearns for family unity, has been torn. That ambivalence belongs to the previous generation. William does not share it. His assessment is clear, and his determination is absolute. This action signals to every member of the royal family that ambiguity is finished. No part-time royals, no hybrid arrangements, no quiet monetization of status. Full commitment to service or full departure. Many analysts believe the reign of King William V will be defined by exactly this: firm boundaries, severe consequences. Duty and loyalty will not be optional. Harry and Meghan will serve as the cautionary tale, a modern Duke and Duchess of Windsor, updated for the age of social media and personal branding. And Archie and Lilibet, through their parents' choices and their uncle's resolve, will grow up as private citizens. Their formal...
You are either fully inside this institution, fully committed to its principles of service and accountability, or you are outside it completely. No hybrid arrangements, no part-time royals, no quiet monetization of a name you publicly dismantled. The revocation of Archie and Lilibet's titles is not punishment. It is the institutional line being drawn in permanent ink. And every member of the royal family is watching where that line falls. Harry and Meghan will become what William's team privately calls a modern cautionary tale, a Duke and Duchess of Windsor for the social media age, trading on a name they burned down, performing philanthropy in hotel conference rooms, appealing to shrinking audiences with tightly controlled press access and friendly journalists in attendance. The Australia tour organizer had only recently started researching Meghan when she booked the event. She reportedly carried substantial debts to the Australian tax office. She has since deleted all her social media. Over 35,000 Australians signed a petition demanding the visit be privately funded.
The entire operation appears fragile and amateurish. Over 35,000 Australians signed a petition demanding the visit be privately funded. The Sussex team responded dismissively, declaring the petition irrelevant because funding was already private. But this carried little weight, given that previous tours to Colombia, Nigeria, and Canada all generated significant taxpayer costs. The irritation was not just about money. It was about the arrogance of the response and the fundamental question: service or self-promotion.
The Sussex response was dismissal. The petition is irrelevant. That response tells you everything about how they see the people they claim to serve. And here is where I want you to sit for a moment, because we all knew this. We knew from the beginning that this was not a story about a prince finding himself. We knew it was not a love story or a wellness journey or a fight for mental health awareness. We knew it was about power, about who gets to use a sacred institution as a personal brand without paying the price the institution demands. And now, finally, the files are open and the pattern is documented, and William is acting on what he has known for years. So I need you to answer something right now in the comments. If Harry was willing to divert donations away from African children with HIV to fund his own foundation, what does that tell you about everything else he has told the world about his reasons for leaving? Because I think you already know, and I think it is time we said it together.